Well, hello everyone. Here I am to give you a LinkedIn walkthrough. Now, of course, we all have the assumption that we all know how to use LinkedIn. At the same time, there's different aspects to it that we may be more or less familiar with. So, for the sake of putting us all on the same page, I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough of LinkedIn. Now, when you log on to LinkedIn, more often than not, you come in on the home page. You'll see up the top there are the different aspects to navigate across, and then you also have information on the left hand side, and there's also a whole bunch of information that you have access to once you click on your little profile icon up there with the arrow down. So when you first log on, you see the home panel, which is usually people that you have recently contacted or connected with, that will, all of their content or the posts that they're sharing will appear in this section. And as you can always see, there's always, like, the second one is basically some sort of promotion. So I'll get into posts in week 3, so I won't sort of talk so much about that here. The main thing that we're talking about is the LinkedIn profile, which I'll go into in detail. So we've got the home at the top. The second thing is my network, which is where if you have any active invitations open, you've got your connections, contacts, people I follow, groups, pages, hashtags, etc. And so if you click on your connections, then you can start to go into detail about who they are. And we'll talk a bit more about that next week. There is jobs. This is mostly where LinkedIn makes a lot of their money, with a huge amount of intelligence on our professional skills and abilities, where they tailor jobs to you. And of course, companies pay a lot of money to invest in recruitment here. There's the messaging app, which is kind of like a email, internal email. It's a little bit like Facebook Messenger, if that's something that you use. And it's where you're able to correspond with people on LinkedIn. If you have just the regular free version of LinkedIn, you can correspond with anyone who is a contact of yours. The other one is the notifications. So the notifications, which is the little bell icon, is a little bit, again, like Facebook notifications. It tells you what type of activity has come up recently. Now, you can actually tailor what notifications you get notified on. I think, sometimes it was someone's had a birthday, someone's connected with you, someone's posted this. You can actually go in here, view your settings, and decide what things you want to be notified on. So feel free to go in and tailor that for yourself. And the thing that we're talking about, also in this section here, there's a whole lot of apps or applications that are, as you see, they're like LinkedIn products, which give you additional information and value through the LinkedIn platform. There's LinkedIn Learning, LinkedIn Insights, which is particularly if you have a company page, if you want to see data or metrics. You can post a job, advertise, there's various groups, and then a couple of other things. SlideShare is pretty cool. That's where you can share documents and look for documents. And there's a whole bunch of other things. Now let's focus in on your profile. Just back on this. When you click on the button up the top there and the arrow comes down, this is kind of another way to navigate around your profile. It allows you, this is where your settings and language, those sorts of background information, settings and privacy help. And you can also do sort of a quick jump into posts and activity and other things there. If you manage any company pages, they're all listed there. So let's go to view profile. So here we are. This is the page that we are specifically talking about today. Now, you heard me mention this section a little bit previously when we were together, and I gave you a few insights in this already. So the key aspects that we're looking to update today is your landscape photo up top, your LinkedIn profile. We've talked about your headline, which is this section here. We talk about the summary section, and I'm also going to talk about this section here, which is where you add in information. What you also see when you log on is your dashboard. So this All-Star basically is LinkedIn trying to encourage you to fill out all aspects of your profile. But the information it also gives you is how many people are looking at you, gives you update about your recent views, search appearances, etc. This is about content, and so we're going to get into content the next couple of weeks. And this section down the bottom, you know how I said the front part, summary sections like the cover letter, and this part where you list out your job experiences is a bit like your CV. So I'll come back to that. Okay, so to start, the first part up the top is the image that you have up the top. Now for me, I mentioned as a speaker, I want to show people information about say speaking to a large audience. So that's the sort of picture that I would have up there. But let me just put in, oops, the legendary Nick Flood. Oops, Nick Flood. And I understand that what you guys are working on is looking at that banner up the top. So that might be first step. Have I updated or input this banner, landscape banner, which will sit up the top of my profile? Why is it important? You can see here looking at Nick's profile, that immediately gives a sense of the background, so you don't even have to explain it. It says who you are, what you do, and this is part of that credibility piece that I talked about. So let's look at your own profile. How do you do it? It's just using this little arrow here. So once you click on the arrow, it gives you the chance to update the top section of your profile. And to click on that one, you can see there immediately comes up with the size dimensions that you can go through, that is recommended. And just like that, once you click on it, you're able to upload a photo where it says change photo. You can also put in filters, you can adjust it, you can drag to position it, move it up and down. So it gives you the ability to change it. So this is where, you know, straighten it, move it around, zoom in or out, all of those different aspects. You can delete it, change it. This is where you do it. So you click on discard. So that's where you do it. It's this little arrow here. So step one was to do that. Step two is to look at your profile pic. How do you change that one? So you can either just click on it directly like I just did, or you can go back to this little pencil button. So click on the profile, and it's the same process as the profile one. Change the photo to select and put it in, and the same thing. You can zoom it in or out. You can, I want to put my little finger out there, or you can change it, filter, adjust. I could make it black and white if I wanted to, a little bit like Instagram. So there's all those different options that you have there. So number one was the top, number two was the profile picture, number three is the headline. Now you guys have been working hard on your headlines, and remember what I said, the headline section is automatically updated with your current job. Now that is a bit ho-hum and boring. This is where you get the chance to add in your own. So you can write it in here, and I quite like using this little, it's the straight line is a nice way to separate. And if you put shift, it's the key above enter usually, shift key above enter, if that makes sense. And you can also put emojis. I'll put in the email just a little tip of how to put emojis in there. Then it has your current speaker, and again, this is where it starts to populate the information from below. So if you haven't done this, some of this is automatically populated, but the main thing we're updating here is your headline. So once you've got that, click save, and that will enter that part there. Now, the third part, so number three is the summary, sorry, number four is the summary section. This has a little arrow here, and this is where we start to input it. Now, I recommended that you work on this in a separate document, whether it's, you know, a handwritten note or a Word document, just so you can edit it and play with it and see it somewhere else. Once you've got it to a standard that you're happy with, you copy and paste it in here. This is where you copy and paste in the content there. Simple as that. Now, the section down the bottom of this section here where you can see photos or videos. I mentioned this when I was with you. This is the section where you're able to add media, whether that's a video, a photo, a PDF, which really adds credibility to your profile through what you know or what you're associated with. This is a simple, in the media section, add or link to external documents, photos, sites, videos, and presentations. So you can either upload a PDF or a Word document or whatever here by clicking this button, or you can just simply copy in a link. So if there's some of these are news articles, some of them are from my website, like the book. Some are videos from YouTube for me, and I've just simply put in a link. And then you click save. So how many should you put in there? Well, sometimes it's nice just to have one or two, which just gives a sense it's nice and clean and clear. Otherwise, if you've got quite a number of things, you think about what story that tells. Having a number of documents there also is just supporting evidence, and its volume is the thing that says something about your experience or what you do. So what are some of the things that go in there? As I've mentioned, is there an infographic? Have you won an award as a team lately? Maybe it's going back to your sales page, which promotes what you do. Maybe it's a team photo or a team video, a promotional video, whatever it is can go in that section there. Once you've done the top section, which I think is probably the most important for capturing attention, you want to just go through the jobs that you've got down the bottom. First step, if you're just overwhelmed by this whole process, just make sure at least you've got the jobs in there. So what was the job you did? Who was it with? How long were you there? And at least if you've got that in, that tells a story of what your experience is. If you have more time, or when you have more time, you might want to actually go into those jobs and pull out information that is relevant from that job to the job you're doing today. So sure, I worked as a communication manager, but what about that job can I pull out which is going to be relevant to what I do now? So rather than just listing the job description and the expertise and things that you did, make sure you make it relevant or pull it out to the job you're doing now or in the future. So that's my tip there. So just make sure they're updated. When you scroll down, it's got education. So you can actually, if you've got degrees or anything that you've studied, you can place those in that section there. And then once you go, the bit which is don't forget about is this one, which is, it says licenses and certifications. So basically, what courses have you done? At first you think, oh, I haven't done that many, but it's actually look at within your job. I remember when I worked at Westpac, I had operations management training, influencer negotiation, change management for people leaders. I add all of those things in there, and that kind of adds to the meat in your profile. So don't forget about the courses you've done and put those in there. When it comes to the skills and endorsement sections, why is this important, do you think? It's really so that at a glance, you can have a look at a really broad mix of, I guess, as you would describe, hard and soft skills. So once you start, there is literally go through and think about in your job, what are all the different things you do? So sure, you might be an account director or in sales, but there's so many more things. Maybe it's strategic planning, comms planning, change management, things like that. Organizational development, fundraising, voiceover, all these different things. Feel free to go through and put all of these different skills in. And then when LinkedIn helps you when you start putting your skills in, and it will pop up those skills onto other people's, when they look at your profile, it will then say, does Kelly have the skill of marketing? And it will give them 4, and LinkedIn will boost you up and help you by getting other people to endorse you for skills. Down the bottom is that powerful section. I'll talk a bit more about this next week, but it's the recommendation section. This is where I said it is so important to always ask for recommendations, and doing it at the time is really helpful. So you can see very kindly, Nick and Kelly gave me a recommendation last time we caught up. And, you don't have to read all of these, but I've been doing this patiently for a good couple of years, to have 26 recommendations. Wow, how cool is that? Imagine if you had 5 recommendations on your account. I bet you know 5 people that can give you a recommendation. And don't forget, it's not just about what you get, it's also about how you give it. So I've also given, so look, I gave Nick a recommendation, not only because I thought, hey, maybe he'll give me one, but I honestly really appreciated working with Nick and with your team. So who can you give a recommendation to? That might be a really great way in sort of the laws of reciprocity to put it out there and to get it back. So down the bottom, it just sort of summarized. This section down the bottom is summarizing some of what you've done. See the courses that are in there as well. And also there's organizations. Oh, that's just what you're members of. And if you've won any awards. So if you've been in a team and as a team you won awards, this is the place to put those in. And you can see accomplishments. It's got the plus button there. This is where you put it in. So I know I mentioned courses up the top there, but there's also courses here as well. So I've gone more specifically. This is funny. I've actually got it in 2 places. Anyway, a couple of places for courses. And then interests is really if you've liked a page, it just includes those there. Where this is relevant is, let's say, I don't know, what is she interested in? It sort of tells a bit of a story. So if you don't want to be seen liking, I don't know, the shooters and guns party, then maybe don't like it because it will kind of tell the broader story of what you like and do. So that's just a brief intro. So as I mentioned in the email, if you can complete your profile by Sunday, I'm happy to go in and have a quick look over yours and give you a few bits of comments or feedback to you specifically. Because I know the part that is the hardest is sometimes the headline. So that's it from me. Good luck with updating your profiles. I'll speak to you soon.